What it do, everyone? Wizzy Scenes, how you going? Welcome to another episode of Keyona Speaks, and today I have a lovely guest, my husband. Today we'll be talking about what has marriage taught me. So if you're single, you're looking, or you're newly married, you don't want to miss this episode. So stay tuned and welcome my husband. So, welcome to an episode of Keyona Speaks. Jhalil and I have been married for almost 8 months, and we had this amazing idea to talk about what has marriage taught us, and also to talk about our journey to how we met and how we got married. So I thought of a cute little mini series of what has marriage taught me, and this is the first installment. So welcome, Jhalil. Thank you for being a guest on my episode, finally. So Jhalil has the handy dandy notes, and he'll go through basically what marriage has taught us, and we'll delve deeper into that. The intent of this video is to highlight the commitment of marriage, the things that you learn about marriage, the growth that you find in marriage, whichever part of that marital journey that you're on, and also to give hope to those that are looking for marriage, that feel like it's hopeless, it's pointless. Keep hope alive. So without further ado, what's the first thing that marriage has taught us, Jhalil?
So the first thing that marriage has taught us taught me rather, is coming from an Islamic standpoint, or even growing up as men in general, that you will be responsible for another human being. Mm-hmm. I know for us as Muslims, it's said that men are the protectors and maintainers of women in Islam. So that's just not solely based on just financially. So it's based on like protecting their honor, protecting their feelings, etc., things like that. But also when it comes time, if you have to be the supporter financially, then also just want to take that on and I'm starting too much. Take that on and being the provider in that sense. So just just putting the family on your back and then doing what you're supposed to be doing and not complaining and just getting it done.
To camelback that is growing up with just my mother and my grandmother, like really predominantly raising me and being taught to be like a independent woman. I've learned that it's okay to rely on a man. It's okay to demand security with a man. And so in conjunction to what marriage has taught Jhalil, for me it's been identifying just my upbringing and how it's been, I wouldn't say toxic, but how the comfort or the defensive mechanism to just be really independent and not rely on a man, how in marriage you cannot have that mentality. You can be very strong, be very independent, but there is a level of reliability, there's a level of security, and there's a level of trust that comes with marriage. And so with marrying Jhalil, I have learned to break down that wall, to relax and know that I have somebody that got my back.
Ready to go on to the next one?
Number 2.
Equality. So just knowing that, as a man, you're not better than the female in any way, shape, or form. Y'all both on the same level. So just knowing that as a man, knowing when to take the lead, and then also knowing when to take the back seat. So I know, men are always taught somewhat of it's like a dogmatic relationship, like I'm up here and you're down here, and I'm the man, it's my word, I say what it is, it's gonna be what it is, and that's it. But it really can't be like that. Sometimes you gotta know, and a good leader knows when to follow. So of course there's things that my wife is better than me at a lot of things, and when it comes time for those things, I'll take the back seat, and I won't just throw it all on her, but I'll make sure that I'm still there in a supportive role, but I will let her take the lead and vice versa. If it's something that she feels as though that I'm a little bit better at, that I'm good at, then she will allow me to take the lead, and then so forth and so on. So it's basically just working together and just knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses.
And to camelback that again, I remember when we were in premarital counseling, and the brother and sister that helped us asked us to fill out that chart about gender roles and what do we feel like one should predominantly do and the other should predominantly do. And we took the assessment without even consulting each other. And so when we got together after completing the assessment, we realized that we really have that equitable balance with household chores. Coming into marriage, I didn't want to feel like I was the 100% responsible person for maintaining or managing the household. Like I wanted to know that Jhalil was going to also support me in cleaning and cooking at times. I mean, being that I'm remote, it makes sense that I can, take on that load more. But I wanted to make it really clear when we were in premarital counseling that I want to make sure that it's even playing field, that it's just not one person doing more than the other. Interestingly enough, when we officially became husband and wife and lived together, the societal pressure kind of creeped in, and I had to reevaluate and have a conversation with Jhalil, and he reassured me that no, you should not be taking on the responsibility of just only cooking and only cleaning. Like, we are a team. Remember, we decided that it's split between the both of us. And so not only did I learn that, through marriage, that you have to really identify what your gender roles are, and then, they come into play based on how you've seen it represented in, in your childhood with your parents, etc. But also sometimes society's, demands will creep up into your psyche. You just have to remember what you and your spouse decided and really redefine the gender roles for yourself. It's number 3, boo.
Oh, no, I was going to also speak on that too. So, like, fellas, we all know, like, it's not just the woman's job to cook and clean, and I get it. But we gotta do a better job. I'll speak for myself. I know I had to do, like, I was living at a place by myself, so I was the main one that was cooking, cleaning, and doing everything like that. So when I got married, I was like, whew, like I felt like I could take a back seat, and it kind of affected her, because it's like she's coming in and now she's doing everything by herself. So just trying to be mindful. Some days you're not gonna feel like doing it. You're not gonna feel like cleaning. I know for me, like I don't like doing the dishes, but she likes a clean sink. So it's like just being mindful of that, and then just trying to chip in. You know what I mean? Everything's not gonna be exactly how you want it, but just being mindful and by letting her know that you're aware of it, and you'll get to it. You try to get to it more often than not. But just like I said, the teamwork, that's when that has to kick in.
You also helped me through, me cooking more, diversify my palate. Like, I used to be like solely a fast food eater, but being married now and knowing that I'm not just feeding myself, but I'm feeding the both of us, when I do cook, I've expanded my horizons on the type of meals that I want to cook. Like, I did not have the confidence in cooking. They were like I was very limited as a single person, and I could say that my confidence in cooking has increased. I am so eager to try different meals. Shout out to HelloFresh. And so, yeah, like, even though I don't believe I should be the only one cooking, I have increased in my chefery. Alhamdulillah.
And I'll also say to that too, that it will be times where things are never going to be 50-50. So if you thinking that it's going to be like, okay, Monday through Wednesday, I'm going to do this, and Thursday through Sunday, you're going to like, it's never going to be like that. So times when your partner is slacking for whatever reason, you got to be that partner to pick up the slack, and you can't do it in a way where you're throwing shade at your partner, like, well, you don't never do this, so I'm always the one, you know what I mean? Because it's not transactional. It's give and take, right. You know what I mean? Especially when you're doing things together, you just got to be mindful of that.
Yep.
You ready for number 4?
Number 3.
I ain't even tell you about this one. This number 4.
Oh, we're on number 4 now?
Yeah.
Oh, number 4.
So, men, we come into relationships and we think that we're all that in a sense when it comes to pleasing women. So being a stud in a sense. So if you had past relations with someone else, it doesn't matter what you did, but with any other woman or anything like that, when you come into a new relationship, this is a new woman with new feelings and new emotional and physical needs. So whatever you did in the past, maybe some of that you can bring into this relationship, but for the most part, you got to learn your woman, and you got to learn her like all the way through, because there's gonna be things that you used to do. It's not gonna please her emotionally, physically, spiritually. So you got to make sure that you tap into her, and it's an everyday thing. I'm not sitting here frauding like I've done it in 8 months. Like, no, it's still like a learning process, and it's maybe a process we'll be learning for the rest of our lives for a long time, inshallah. So just being mindful of that, you know what I mean? Just taking the time to actually get to know your partner, her likes, her dislikes, things that please her, things that take her over the top, things that like, every married couple knows, things that get her there, you know what I mean? So just being mindful of that.
And same for the ladies, it's really important to learn your partner as well. Like, it's literally a clean slate. And when you decide to get married, you're deciding to do the lifelong journey. And so don't think that you have ever arrived just because you may be experienced in other, areas. just take it on as if you don't know anything, because a part of getting close with your partner and building that true intimacy is learning, doing activities to learn the likes, the dislikes, the arousals, the disarousals, things of that nature. So it's important. Next.
And I'll say for me, one thing I learned is and like I said, if I'm frauding at any point, you can call me out on it. If at any point, so when dealing with you, I've learned to, like, in all my dealings with you, bring it from a religious aspect, and always try to fear God in my dealings with you. So if any time where I feel like, everyone that gets in disagreements and things like that, if I feel like I've been talked to a certain way or something was said and I didn't like it, and if it hit somewhere where it made me feel a little insecure, it hit an insecure spot that I have, and instead of just lashing back and trying to say something hurtful back or to get my point across in any type of way, me having and I'm not perfect, but me trying to have a sense of God consciousness or fearing God controls how I talk to her. Because at the end of the day, she's still a creature of God. She's still, my wife, and the responsibility that a husband has to his wife is held to a high regard. And women in our religion, period, are held to a high regard. So just always trying to keep that balance. I'm not perfect. It may be days, where I may say some things I shouldn't say or do some things I shouldn't do, but always trying to have that in me to how I deal with her is based from a religious standpoint. It kind of helps and guides me of how I deal with her in any way, shape, or form. Anyway, in the good times as well as in times that is some adversity.
I agree. Coming into this marriage, I set my intention to see my marriage as a form of worship. So the things I do in my household, how I navigate with my spouse, even how I try to rectify the emotional mistakes that I may make, is really putting God, or Allah as we call our creator, at the forefront. And so when you put your creator in the forefront, and when you realize that you really have a trust between your spouse when you get married, and you set your intention on pleasing the Most High, you go about things a lot differently. I may not really be in the mood to pick up the slack, but I know that it's required of me in that particular day because he is overburdened. And so just transitioning my mind to see okay, I'm doing this to please the Most High, and in return I'm helping my spouse out. It just sets the tone. It puts everything into perspective. Because we're gonna have our bad times, we're gonna have our disagreements and things like that, but knowing how to rectify the situation in a godly way is so much better than not doing it. Because there are times when I've been emotionally triggered, and instead of lashing out, which is a pattern that I had in the past before getting married, I just said it's better for me to be silent, it's better for me to go into another room and sit still than to say immediately what's on my mind. I respect my husband so much. I honor his feelings, and I don't want to say something. I'm a true believer, and I've told Jhalil this. Anytime somebody says something out of their mouth and then they kind of say oh, I didn't mean that, I feel thoughts marinate. And I felt if I ever said anything to disrespect Jhalil, I had been thinking about that. And so just to make sure that I'm just calm, and before I initiate with him, I just go away. And that's why we honestly don't fight, because we really choose to handle our situations differently. And that's not saying that we're perfect and that we're never going to have a mistake, but we've been really working diligently to remember the Most High and how we deal with each other. So.
And piggyback off that, I know one thing that you have taught me was, like you said, with emotional triggers, and we all have them from childhood all the way up to adulthood, and which we talk about. And it's always not just communication, but effective communication, and really going over explain to your partner, babe, when you do this makes me feel this type way, and this is why. So that way, it's not just stop talking to me like that. Who you talking to? Da 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 da. Who you think? You know what I mean? Instead of, because then you say that to somebody and they're just I'm talking to you. It's going to be a negative reaction back and forth. But if you say, and you come to your spouse softly and gently, babe, I don't like it when you talk to me like that. And when you say things like that, this is what it does to me, and this is why. Because when I was in this situation, boom, 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 boom. Because we all have insecurities, we all have triggers, we all have things that we go through that stem from childhood to adulthood. So if you, especially this is your spouse, it's the person you live with, spend most of your time with, if you explain it to her and she knows, then it just makes for a better living environment.
That's facts. It's really important to know the reason behind your partner's triggers, because no matter how much we have healed through certain traumas or even ignored certain traumas, we will always be triggered by them. And so knowing, your partner's story prior to you is really going to help you to, monitor yourself, or, actually be intentional about how you engage with your partner. And there may be times when your partner, like there's been times when Jhalil has to remind me multiple times that I've done something that triggers him. And it's just a work in progress, but it's important to not keep those situations in the closet, but just have conversations about, things that trigger you or that upset you, so that your partner can tap into that and not do it. Or try not to do it.
And try to be patient too. I mean, even though we talk about it, even though she's told me things about herself and her childhood, and I told her things about myself and my childhood, just because I told her, that doesn't mean like that. She'll never do it again, or you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you got to be patient, you know what I mean? Yeah. So the next one for me is, like I said, having taqwa, which is just God consciousness, always keeping yourself mindful of God. Appreciation and discipline. I always feel like a good woman will keep you disciplined as a man. So I know before I was married, and I'm not gonna speak for all men, I'll speak for myself. Like, I had problems with lowering my gaze, which means if I saw a fine woman walk past, it'd be hard for me not to look sometimes. Like, I'd be like, dang, you know what I mean? Not saying that, I'd be gawking and being a weirdo, but at the same time, I would take a glance. So it was getting married, and when you marry a good woman, it kind of like it hones that, and it kind of keeps you honest. And it's a short hadith from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He said, any man that leaves out of his home and sees a woman that arouses his desires, then let him go home to his wife, because his wife has the same thing that the woman he saw has. And that's 100% true. Like, whenever I see, and we all have eyes, we all see things. Not saying that we stare, but you see something, you're like, oh man, that's nice. But then I can always say in my mind, I don't have to look. I had that at home. God has blessed me with that. Where I have all that at home. So it's no reason for me to look even longer or take a double look, because I know I have it at home. And then when I see that, it's just me thanking God again. You know what I mean? It's always a constant reminder, like, thanks God, I appreciate it. Like, you blessed me. You blessed me with that at home. So I don't have to, you know what I mean? I can just be humble and be thankful with that.
Facts.
Anything with that?
No, you said that, boo.
You better not be looking at nobody.
I don't look at nobody.
Having a discipline with emotional intelligence in the marriage. So, like I think I said before, like, we're around each other every day. We're around each other the most out of anybody. So I know what can trigger hers. I know what can piss her off, and she knows what can piss me off. So just saying, you're living with each other naturally, you're going to get on each other's nerves. It's human nature. So she may say something to me, and instead of me trying to say something that's going to be hurtful, or that's just my jab back at her, like, I'll take this, you know what I mean? I could just keep quiet. And if I didn't want to go to another room, I'll go to another room. If I feel like, and I tell her, she thinks that I never get mad, and she thinks that I'm so nonchalant. Like, I just take everything and just let it roll off my shoulder. And that's not the case. But like I said, I try to deal with her in a religious standpoint, which I have my emotions as well. But if it's something that I feel like that needs to be addressed right in that moment, I'll address it. If not, then I'll address it when I need to, or later on that day when I'm more calm and I can talk to her like this. Because we all know, if you're sitting there and you're amped up and you're talking, like she said, it may be things on your mind that already been marinating, but when you're upset, they can be exaggerated. Oh, you never do this. Oh, you always, you know what I mean? And nobody never does something. Nobody always does something. So just trying to come to each other when you're calm and you're cool, you're collected, you can actually have a conversation. That's what I pride myself in her on. We've never had, I know we only been married for 8 months, but we've never had an argument. Anything we ever had, it was just a disagreement. And after the disagreement is over, we still may not agree. And like I was always taught, agree to disagree. And then you just move on. We're not the same person, and that's a good thing. So some things we agree on, some things we don't.
I also think there is a level of sensitivity when it comes to just being able to know that something is going on in the air. And it may not be that your partner is mad with you. It may be that, your partner is just like, really in tune with themselves and just thinking about something that's bothering them, or, trying to mentally prepare for something. And you may sense that just the air is a bit off. And so, having a level of emotional intelligence is being able to kind of know how to interpret that energy, whether, results in having a conversation like, babe, are you okay? I'm sensing that you're a bit distant, or you seem like something's bothering you. Or if you are even aware that something is bothering your partner, that's what the love languages really come into, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But knowing how to comfort your partner in those in those emotional times. So having a level of emotional intelligence isn't just having a level of compassion, but even having a level of understanding and knowing how to maneuver with that level of understanding so that you are being supportive to your spouse and not antagonistic. And I think you do a really great job of knowing, okay, something's bothering Keyona. Whenever she's ready to talk about it, she will. I'm going to go ahead and give her space. And I know for me, it's been a learning experience, because it's like, I want to be like, I kind of want him to be all in my face, or I want to be all up in his face, but I'm learning the ways to apply emotional intelligence to be of benefit to you, and you're doing the same thing when it comes to me. So.
And let me say, we're not robots. So I mean, there will be times where it may be a little bad. Like every single time, will I always walk away? I don't know. You know what I mean? So it's nobody's perfect, but you just gotta continue to work at it and things of that nature. Also, what you said about space, nothing is wrong with taking space away from your spouse. Like if like I said, you're around each other all the time, you need your own personal space. Like I was always taught, never lose your own individuality in your marriage. Like she will always be her, I'll always be me, but together we are one. So it's times where if I know she's upstairs and she's looking at her YouTube videos or whatever, and I'm downstairs and I'm looking at sports highlights or something like that, or Marvel trailers or something, just whatever, I know that that's my me time, and that's her time. And I won't go up there. Sometimes I won't go up there and mess with her while she does whatever she's doing, and same thing. But sometimes, even if it's been times I'm down here and she'll just come down here and sit next to me silent. You know what I mean? Just even though we're still having our own space, but we're still near each other still,
Or a quick kiss, or just playing around, and then we go do our own thing. Yeah. COVID has really brought, I've always known that touch is my love language, but it has really stepped up more being married to you. I only want to really converse or communicate with Jhalil doing that touch love language. Yes, we have our times where we can sit side by side or across from each other, and we don't have to actually physically touch each other to talk. But I really love the way that we love each other. I love the fact that we spend a lot of time, not only just sharing love in the sense of words, but it's we'll hug each other. We have our little things that we do that's a part of touch. And even though it's great that we get our space, even in the midst of us getting space, we find that time to do that quick little touch, and then we go about our business. And so I like that about ourselves.
Yep. The next one was a big one for me. I had to learn over the years was say what you mean and mean what you say, and never to exaggerate. So sometimes, and this for good times and bad times. So sometimes we say things we don't mean when we're extremely happy. When you're on cloud nine, we just meet each other and you're like, oh baby, when we get married, I'm gonna do boom, 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 boom. Or I'm gonna do this, you ain't gotta work, you know what I mean? Just selling pipe dreams and things like that. Yeah, you know what I mean? So just be mindful of that. And also, sometimes we say things you don't mean when we're extremely upset. And again, that goes from when I said, if you need to just, for me, I don't really be extremely upset, but if it comes a time where I'm extremely upset, just walk away. You know what I mean? My mom always taught me, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. And sometimes you may, like I said, if I have to address something in that second, then I will. But again, doing that, make sure that you don't embarrass your spouse. You always got to make sure that you're protecting your spouse. So if you got to pull her to the side, or she got to pull me to the side and say, babe, don't ever do that again, or something like that, it's always between us two. You never air them out in front of a group of people. Never let people see stuff like that. But so when things are upset, just never, I'm sorry. So when things are upset, never be things can be exaggerated. Oh, you never do this, or you never take me out, or you never take out the trash, or you never, you know what I mean? So like I said, things may marinate, but when you're upset or when you're extremely happy, things can be a bit more exaggerated. So
marriage has taught me that it's important for me to redefine certain things about myself. So, growing up and really falling into the trap of how society defines a woman, how society defines a wife or femininity. Coming into my marriage, I've gotten to a place where I just really had to redefine, what a wife means to me. What does expressing my femininity mean to me? What does being a woman mean to me? And it really took off a lot of stress. And people don't really talk about that, how like you just really have to make it for yourself. You have to define it for yourself. And just being open and honest with Jhalil about how I was feeling, like the pressures that I was feeling. I was like, I don't need to look like an Instagram model. I don't need to look like a video vixen. This is my beauty. This is how I express my beauty. And then I did seek, some suggestions from Jhalil, like what would you like for me to do to amplify, my sensuality? And I did the same thing for him. And so that redefining, like you just have to really see the uniqueness in yourself and your partner and your marriage, and not think that you're supposed to be like everybody else, because you'll find out on your journey to getting married, or if you're newly married, that people will project a lot of their tips and tricks and things like that, and some you can keep and some you can let go. But know that at the end of the day, in the experience of marriage, you'll find that you may not be that type of woman, that type of wife, or have that type of or be more inclined to the type of beauty that other people are trying to project onto you. And you got to be confident and comfortable in that. And I think that's where I finally got in a place in our relationship, is that I'm confident and I'm comfortable in how I express myself as a wife, as a woman, and when it comes to my femininity.
I would say too to that is, as men, you got to make sure that you're not confusing your women, because like I tell my wife, like, you're beautiful, you this, you that, and things like that. But I can't tell her that, and then she logs on to Instagram and see my last likes, and it's all likes of half naked women, women with fake big butts and fake big chests and things of that nature. Because then it's going to be like, well, this is what you like. You telling me you like me to be garbed up, but this is what you like. Or you telling me you like me to look this certain way, but this is what you like. So also, like, what I have learned, and this is my second marriage, so a lot of things I've learned from mistakes and past mistakes, and then bringing it to this marriage. But a lot of things that I've learned is not being so hard on your wife. You know what I mean? Like, don't expect her to look like these women that's on TV or these women that's in these magazines. Like, that's not real. You know what I mean? In a day-to-day, that's not real. Because imagine if women start putting those things on men. I need you to look like this. I need you to look like The Rock. You know what I mean? Like, I need you to look like Tyson Beckford. I need you to look like all these, you know what I mean? Like, it's not realistic. And how we feel as men, I know for me, I feel a little insecure, like, dang, so I gotta be 6'1", or I gotta have muscles popping out of my ears, like, you know what I mean? This is what turns you on, you know what I mean? So just try to look at things from the lens of your wife as well. So Tana, I need you to have like a size 3 waist, and you need to wear this and dress like this. Like, all that stuff is not real.
Because society already puts a pressure on us to appear effortless. And when you have a lot of responsibility, like, we don't have children right now, but it's like, I hear so much about women who reflect on when they were single or when they were newly married. They had the ability and the time and the energy to do all these things, but when you're working in a corporate space or running your own business, or you may be tending to sick relatives or have children, you really got to look at things in the true perspective, and it's very difficult to be effortless. You know what I'm saying? So
you just got to just appreciate what you got, man. Like, if you spend your time just being thankful and being appreciative of what you have, everything else that's going on outside, it really just don't matter. Like, you know what I mean? It really just don't matter. This next one was another big one for me, and I know she says it's men, period, but learning to listen to your spouse, to your lady, without trying to fix the problem. So it's been so many times she's talking to me, and the whole time she's talking to me, my brain is just like working, like, okay, like, how can I solve this problem for her in my mind? So I have an answer. That way I feel like I'm contributing to the situation, that I have an answer for her at the end of her problem. And sometimes most times I had to learn, she just want me to listen. And that's one thing I had to learn. I know a lot of men, like, we fixers. We want to fix things. We want to come up with a solution, but sometimes you just got to shut your mouth, sit back, put the phone down, turn the TV off, and just give her your undivided attention and just listen. And when she's done talking, like, you talk to her, anything you want for me to say or anything, like, nah, I just want you to listen. And that's all it is. You just move on. That's something I had to learn.
Yeah, that is so important to me, because I already have the mindset where I'm going through something, I'm trying to process it, I'm talking myself in and out of things. And so typically when I initially vent to people and I'm not, prefacing it as, I need your advice, I just really need a sounding board. I need to actually hear myself say what I'm thinking inside and just have someone like listen to me. Maybe at the end I may say, what are your thoughts? But anytime a person just naturally just wants to interject or just try to give me a solution and that's not what I'm looking for, it like really kind of gets under my skin. It's a pet peeve. And so men are naturally wired to be problem solvers, whereas women are naturally wired to just be nurturing and supportive and empathic. And so shout out to being in, women and gender studies classes in college. I was able to understand a little bit about how both genders, process and do certain things, and I was able to take that information and be able to tell my spouse, like, I know that you're naturally wired to solve my problem, but in this moment I just want a sounding board. I just want to feel like I'm heard, like somebody's listening to me and I'm not dealing with these situations or thoughts and holding them into myself, because I'm a big advocate of getting that negative stress out, and that could be journaling or it could be talking to somebody. And so coming to my spouse and entrusting him with what I'm going through and knowing that he's just being support is like really is what I seek and what I want. And so once I made it clear, we've been Gucci. Yep.
I'm just gonna knock out this last three. So it's said in our religion as well that the devil's most beloved worker is one that causes divide between husband and wife.
Mm-hmm.
So things that I learned is that you have to drop your ego and pride, and don't let the devil paint your situation so bad. Like everyone is human, and we all make mistakes. And we all have done things that we're not proud of in life. And everybody that believes in God, of course, wants to seek God for his forgiveness. And I look at it like, so we want God to show mercy on us. But if we want God to show mercy on us, then we got to show mercy to others. And how can we want forgiveness from God if we don't show forgiveness to others? So just especially in a relationship, like you have to forgive, because if you hold on to things, it's going to eat you up inside. And forgiving, you can still talk about it. You know what I mean? You can still disagree about it, but it's also just forgiving and letting go. Like I think for me, prayer helps. Like I can, if Keyona does something that makes me annoyed or anything like that, like I can just pray on it, huff and puff, like, all right, whatever. And do I do it like that every single time? No, I don't. But most times I do. So I just try, just let it go. You know what I mean? Because if you can't forgive, it's kind of like a contradiction. It's kind of like you want God to forgive you for all the terrible things you've done. I'm not saying that y'all done terrible things, but for the terrible things I've done, I'll say that.
Yeah.
And if I want God to forgive me for that, if I want him to be merciful for me for that, then I have to be forgiven to his creation and have mercy on his creation as well. So it's just having that balance.
And knowing that with the shaitan or Satan, that he is a common enemy that we have, and his plot is to, build a wedge between us. Eventually, try to tempt us to get so mad with each other, get so apart that we get divorced. It's like when we go through those scuffles or we go through those disagreements or we're emotionally triggered, it's like, wait a minute. It kind of makes you sit and reflect on that situation, say, is it as bad as it truly is, or has the shaitan, in Arabic we say waswas, given that whisper to make it, to amplify it? And it's like, you know what? I love my husband. I love this marriage. I want to be in this marriage. And so I'm not going to let the shaitan's tricks and plots to try to build a wedge. I'm not gonna let him win over. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remember that we have a common enemy, and that's gonna help us to fight, and not like fight like we're struggling, but like just really set that intention to make sure that it's us over everything, in a sense of like, somebody trying to come in between us. And to add on that as well is what we were talking about earlier, is that when you're married, the vows just don't solidify you throughout your marriage. You have to wake up and go to bed with your intention set on that you are choosing to be married and you are choosing your partner. Especially, for people that go through rough times, you gotta remember that this is a choice. You're not forced to be married to your partner, but to really, be committed every single day, it's just rectifying your intention. And so marriage taught me commitment. It taught me to really make sure that my intentions are pure and that I'm not just blindly into this. And I really appreciate our journey to getting married, because it really built the foundation of intentionality and, being, having sincerity in our commitment. So every single day I say, I choose you. Shout out to Willie Hutch if you know that song.
Next one is teamwork. So simple. I mean, everything that you do as a couple, as a spouse, you got to do it together. Not every single thing, but y'all are a team. So anything, like, y'all are a team. Like, it's one and two. You know what I mean? Whenever you make a big decision, small decisions, if you got to address something, y'all are on the same page or have to be on the same page. Y'all can't let anything come between us. They always say when you have kids, they'll try to, put y'all against each other and things of that nature, which I even tried as a kid with my parents. But if y'all on the same page and y'all connected, then y'all should be fine. So just make sure that y'all like a strong team. Y'all like hip to hip.
Now you solidified that, boo.
Solidified that, boo. Learn that, like, and it's legit, like, being married, I've learned I've had like a strong friendship in which you like truly like a best friend. So, you know what I mean? When you get that in the spouse and it's natural, you know what I mean? You're not doing it just for Facebook or Instagram and likes and all that. It's like, if it's natural, that's really your friend, really your best friend, then that makes your relationship that much better. Like, if I get some good news, bad news in between, the first person I'm texting, I'm calling is my wife. And it's not because I feel like I'm obligated to, because I want to. Or at times when I'm getting ready to come home, I can't wait to get home so I can mess with my wife. You know what I mean? So it's just like, she's my covering, I'm her covering. If I'm scared, I can tell her. If I'm upset, I can tell her. If I'm stressed out, I can tell her. And she's my covering. She helps me, she guides me. She's like a therapist for me. She's make sure I read on that one. Even like a mentor, I put that on there. Like, if it's aspirations that I may have and I'm not so sure of which way should I go, you know what I mean? Of course, she always tell me to pray on it and trust the Most High, but then she'll also give me her advice and tell me, well, I think you can do this and I think you do that. And times where she can say, I think you can do more. You know what I mean? Like, don't set the bar so low. Man, you can always do better for yourself. So, and
accountability partners.
Yeah.
Like, you really have the whole phrase, like, homie, lover, friend. Like, your partner really is that. Like, he holds me accountable. He reminds me to speak highly of myself. There are times when I may, think low of myself, and he reminds me of the qualities, attributes that I have. One thing I learned in psychology back in college is that you have 4 versions of yourselves, and the one that you really can't, acknowledge is your blind self. And so there's things about ourselves that we don't actually see because we're not the fly on the wall, we're not the camera on ourselves. Other people around us can see aspects about ourselves that we can't. And so having him in my life, he helps me to, he helps me with my insecurities. He helps me to hold myself accountable to goals that I have. Like, talk is very cheap. He's all about action. And so when I say things, like, he really makes sure that I'm going to back it up. And when I'm scared or when I need to make a decision, I know that I have him to talk to. And I'm in a new state, so I haven't built that friendship or that sisterhood. So him and his mom are like my best friends right now. We do almost everything together. And so I'm just really grateful that we started our marriage with a friendship as well. That's another important thing. Like, yeah, you could be attracted to a person. Yeah, they can have qualities that you want in a partner, but what's really gonna have that relationship, like, gliding through the waves is that you started with a friendship. You didn't just say what's your favorite color, what's your favorite food. Like, you really got in depth with each other.
Care about all that, yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
Anything else on your list, babe?
Last one is, last but not least, is trusting God. So, like I said, this is my second marriage. I was divorced at 29, and at that point, you know what I mean, you're by yourself, you're single, and you got, you start to get the whispers in your head, thoughts in your head, like, man, like, what's going to happen? Are you ever going to get married again? I know you want to get married again. Are you going to find that sister that you really like? Or are you going to settle? And I had it in my mind. I said I will not settle in my next relationship. If I meet a woman and I'm married, this is going to be the woman I want to marry. And when I say that, you have to, when you want a spouse, or either way, if a woman wants a man, man wants a woman, pray to God. And when you're in your prayer, be very, 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 very specific on what you want. And I know for me, like I said, the number one thing I wanted was a religious woman. And I got that. And everything else that I asked for, I got that. And I got more. And I tell her this often. Like, God has really blessed me with a good woman. Like, top to bottom. Like, from just anything, from beauty to religion to being funny to being stylish to even having like a very, very good family. Like even that's very important. And a lot of people don't really pray for that. Like, but even in like having good in-laws and having a good family that like as soon as they met me, they embraced me, they hugged me, they dapped me, they made me feel like I was one of their own, like they knew me since I was a kid. And just you know what I mean? Like I said, like I'll just reiterate, just always being specific in your prayers. And like I said, like I'll never forget like that, like I was very, very specific. God has blessed me what I asked for and then added some on there. So just always having faith and always, you know what I mean, keeping it consistent and things like that. Like nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect, you know what I mean? But like I said, being specific in your prayers, God has answered me and then some. So just always, you know what I mean, trusting God. And it's easier said than done, you know what I mean? But just trying to, you know, maintain and be steadfast. And when you try to do the right thing, God will look out for you. So that's it for me.
So that concludes our lovely list of what has marriage taught us. If you're a newlywed, we're interested in knowing what has marriage taught you thus far. If you've been in this marital game for a long time, we're really interested in knowing what has marriage taught you. So drop your tips, tricks, opinions, and beliefs in the comment box below. If you have made it to this far, we greatly appreciate you because your time is very valuable, and we thank you for finding Keyona Speaks to be worth your time. Follow us on Instagram, or rather me on Instagram at Keyona Speaks, Twitter at Keyona Speaks. Check out my blogs at www.keyonaspeaks.com. The preface of this whole platform is to help you own your story, so remember to own your story.
And when Keyona speaks, the healing starts. No herbalist, but the words I spit will leave you in deep thought. Sit back, relax, enjoy the conversation. Keyona Speaks, the waviest podcast. Ain't no debating.
Thanks, babe. Thank you for being my guest.